For 10 years, I was a legislative associate at the League of Arizona Cities and Towns, representing all the incorporated municipalities in Arizona. In 2010, we had the infamous Senate Bill 1070, the anti-immigration measure, the show us your papers measure. And I've been tracking the bill very, very closely, but had not yet spoken on it. It was a Tuesday evening, about 6 p.m. My executive director and my legislative director came into my office and said, "Can you talk about 1070 tomorrow?" And I said, "Tomorrow?" And they said, "Yes, tomorrow, 9 o'clock." I go, "Absolutely, I'm ready," even though I wasn't. I exude false confidence at various times. So I don't remember if I slept well or not that night. I knew it was going to be a big deal. The hearing was in the House, and the majority party, as still is the case, were Republicans. The room was packed. There were a lot of people with T-shirts on that would indicate that they're not my friends on this particular issue. There were 4 of us who testified against the bill: a clergy person, a woman that worked in a human rights organization out of Tucson, a man that represents the chiefs of police, and myself. While I was testifying, I heard boos, I heard threats behind me. I was thankful that there were other law enforcement people in the room, quite frankly, and that's the first time in my life that had ever happened. And at one point, I actually asked the chair of the committee if there could be a little more decorum, and he said, "No, they have the right to free speech." So I got done with my testimony. I was thankful that Kirsten Sinema was sitting on that panel that day. She threw me a bunch of softballs, so I at least had one friendly face. And once I got done, the sponsor of the bill, Senator Russell Pierce, got up to the podium and said, "I just have to interject here. Anybody who's testifying against my bill is an anarchist." Subsequently, I went out and bought some socks that have the anarchy symbol on them, and I wear them every time I testify. But we got done with the hearing. Obviously, the bill passed. And I had my intern with me, Stephen. He was a young man out of Lake Havasu City. We walked outside, and Kirsten Sinema came up to us, and I introduced the 2 of them. And then Representative Sinema went on to talk in a very expletive filled rant about the committee that we just appeared before. And Stephen turned to me after she left and said, "Do all elected officials talk like that?" And I said, "Just the ones that I really like." A few minutes later, an older gentleman, 70, 75 years old, came up to me and started yelling and screaming at me about the Mexicans are going to take over the country. All of our jobs are going to be gone. It's going to be nothing but drug-infested neighborhoods. And after a few minutes of his ranting, he paused, and I said, "No habla inglés, señor." He looked like he was going to have a stroke, but he walked away. So a few days after that, I got a phone call from Bill Lace of UUCP. Bill is an FBI agent, actually, and he is currently stationed in Washington, D.C. But Bill asked me if I would come to UUCP and talk on a panel about SB 1070. And I said, "Sure." So when I showed up in the parking lot, the first time I'd been to this building, there were news station vans all over the place. And I just started having 120 beats per minute heart rate. I was more nervous, I think, then, as opposed to testifying in front of the committee, because I knew there'd be a big crowd by the size of the parking lot. And so I went inside, and Rodney Glassman was there, and he was running against John McCain for the US Senate, and they were all interviewing him. Once somebody, I can't remember who it was, might have been Reverend Susan, said, "In 5 minutes we're going to start." Rodney took off, all the cameras left, and my pulse went back down to normal. So we got done with that panel. It was very pleasant, obviously, because the people in the church were people that were on the same side I was on. And it wasn't long after that that Bill called me again and asked me if I would be a part of the training for the resurrection of Legislative Day. Apparently there'd been a pause in that activity amongst the UUs in Arizona. And I said, "Sure, that sounds great." So that was a Saturday event, and I went out to the UU church in Surprise. And I saw some old friends of mine from Prescott that I knew. And I had not been a UU member. I had not attended the church before, but I saw people I knew, and then some people from UUCP that I just met, did the training. And I was driving home after I was done, and I thought to myself, you know, I've never gone to a service. And back in Minnesota, many years ago, I used to work for Planned Parenthood, and I was an educator, community educator, and I participated in what is now known as OWL. And so I'm thinking, you know what? I've been a speaker in a UU church in Minneapolis, in Phoenix, and in Surprise. I should go to a service. And the next day, the Sunday, I went, and the choir was in full voice, and Susan had a beautiful, touching sermon, and Gary Zell was actually the worship associate and had a poem about something related to the items on the bottom shelf or the items on the top shelf. I don't remember precisely now, but I signed up to join as soon as I could after that, because I knew that I had found my spiritual home. So that's how I got to UUCP. Thank you.